Well, I just had a road rage incident. Oh, my word. There's too many people. Too many people live around here. I need to move. Anyway, I don't want to move. There's too much good fishing. Brings us to what we're doing today, and that is going to Letort Spring Run. If you haven't heard of the Letort, you should check it out. It is probably one of the most difficult trout streams, the most difficult spring creeks in the world. And it has a crazy storied history. And it's one of those things where, like, I think that a lot of fly fishing history gets tossed by the wayside because it's not cool and it's not interesting. Well, I mean, to the majority of people, it's not that interesting. But things that are commonplace, things that we've adopted and are completely normal, all started somewhere, like things like fishing terrestrials. Of course, you're going to fish terrestrials. You know, if grasshoppers, everybody wants to fish hoppers. But things like ants, beetles, inchworms, stuff like that, I mean, all of that was really developed at Letort. And, like, I think it's because it's become so ingrained in the sport and everyone knows you fish terrestrials. And nobody needs to think about where that came from. How did that happen? Why did we start doing that? Obviously because it's effective. But, you know, somebody had to be the first one to say, a tie fly looks like a grasshopper. And here's how I'm going to fish it. You know, maybe you want to smack it down on the water, like he got blown into the creek. Or maybe you want to just set it down gently. Oh, crap, there's an ambulance behind me. How are we going to play this? I guess we'll just see what happens. He gets up here, we're going to get over. Anyway, Letort is, a lot of people consider it like hallowed ground. Because of all the advancements and all the techniques and things that were developed there. Two guys, Vincent crap, hold on. Alright, we're back. A little ambulance incident. Two guys, for the most part, that made Letort what it is. Vincent Marinero and Charlie Fox. Marinero's written, I'm sure he's written more than 2 books. Maybe he's only written 2 books. But In the Ring of the Rise is a great book. And Modern Dry Fly Code, which is all about presenting dry flies in what he called modern, it's probably 50s? In the mid-50s, 60s? He died in 86. So this is not recent history. So these guys found this creek in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania. It is a spring-fed limestone creek. And they said, well, there's some really sizable brown trout in here. Why can't we catch them? And the trout are just extremely well educated. They've seen everything in the book, and everything you do's got to be perfect. Like, I've heard people talk about putting a fly on a leaf, casting a fly, landing it on a leaf, and then easing it off that leaf onto the surface of the water. Because on, you know, a particular day, that might be what you need to do. Sounds terrible, right? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not going here because I think it's going to be fun. It's an awful place to fish. It is. I saw Joe Cermelli. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Joe Cermelli. He used to write for Field and Stream and had a YouTube web series called Hookshots on Field and Stream. If you haven't seen that, that is probably the best fishing content on YouTube, and it does not get its due. It's a bit of a cult classic. There's all this other fishing crap on YouTube, but Hookshots is where it's at. And Cermelli, I don't remember if this was an episode of Hookshots or a podcast or what, but he said, like, I'm paraphrasing, he said, Why would I want to go fish the Letort, just get my teeth kicked in, over and over and over, where I can go to any other stream in the Cumberland Valley in Pennsylvania and, maybe catch a couple fish? Because it is hard fishing. From what I read and what I hear from people, it gets worse all the time. It used to be a little more open, and there used to be meadows, and a lot of it now is just wall-to-wall brush on each side of the creek, and where it's not wall-to-wall brush, it's soft ground. And I mean like soggy quicksand, morass, terrible. So it is not a fun place to fish. And I'm mostly referring to the upper section, the headwaters. There's a fly fishing only section that's like a mile and a half, a little bit more than a mile and a half. And that is where these guys fish. That is where all these dry fly and terrestrial techniques were developed. That's where all this stuff came from. And you can fish the lower sections of the Letort where it dumps into the Coneguanet. There's some actually very good fishing down there. It's actually easier. You can catch fish. You can, nymph a riffle or a plunge pool, and you catch fish. You don't have to hide 30 feet back from the edge of the creek, kneel and cast, and pray to God, you land it properly. There are ways to catch fish on the lower Letort that are, it's not crazy. It's not insane. But the upper sections, it's difficult. It is extremely, extremely difficult fishing. But I've heard people compare it to the River Test in England. I have never fished the River Test. I have no idea. But, I don't know. I'd probably call it the River Test for a reason. So, we're going to go, and one very cool thing about the upper headwaters of the Letort nowadays is there is a trail, essentially. The Letort Nature Trail, which walks right alongside the creek for a very long distance. So, you can go walk up and down the creek. Doesn't mean you're going to see a fish, and doesn't mean you're going to catch a fish, but there's decent access. It doesn't mean that, right off the trail isn't quicksand and knee-deep mud, but there is legal access, which is great. Parking, on the other hand, yeah, we'll see about that. I got a spot. It's not a parking spot. It's in front of somebody's house in a neighborhood, and then we sneak back past a little. It's a whole thing. So we'll do that, and we're gonna walk up and down and look for fish. And honestly, I might not even make a cast. Today, because this is the kind of fishing where you find a fish, you observe the fish, and you pray to God it's doing something that will allow you to present a fly to it. And if that doesn't work, maybe you wait half an hour and try a different fly or a different presentation. Because one wrong move, one extra false cast, one shadow across the water, and you're done. And the entire, section you're fishing is put down for the next 6 days. That's not accurate, but that's how it feels sometimes. I hate fishing this creek. I hate it. And we're going because it's historic, and it is, some people consider it, fly fishing mecca. And it's mostly, I think the older crowd they remember those guys, and they remember reading In the Ring of the Rise, which is a very good book, by the way. But I just feel like the younger crowd that's into fly fishing now has no idea what a Letort is. I went to an Orvis store it was Raleigh, North Carolina. And a guy asked what I fished where I live, what my home waters was. And I was like, oh yeah, I've got this, that. We fished the Susquehanna for smallmouth, great smallmouth river, one of the best. I'm 20 minutes away from Letort. And he's like, Letort? What is that? I think I've heard of that. I said, oh, well, it's a Spring Creek, Cumberland Valley. It's amazing. It's very, very difficult fishing. He's like, oh yeah, we carry a fly called the Letort hopper. And I was like, yeah, yes you do. One of the early, not a very attractive hopper pattern, but that's where it came from. Terrestrial fishing that's where it all kind of began. And so we're going to look. Unfortunately, it's spring, and it's still early, and I don't know that fishing terrestrials is a great bet right now. We may try an ant or something. There's always ants around. I feel like you can fish an ant year-round, drowned or floating or however you want to do it. But we're going to look around. We may, like I said, we might not actually make a cast. There are some places where a sculpin fly, some kind of streamer, can get it done. I brought a 6-weight so we can do that. It's very, very difficult fishing. And it's hard just to get into the water or get close enough to the water to make a good presentation, let alone fish that are just like stupid educated. And there are still large fish in the Letort for being a tiny little spring creek. They're there. I've seen them. Haven't caught them. But you can, every once in a while, you'll see one. So the potential for big brown trout, big wild brown trout, in just like a storied, historic body of water. It's especially if you live nearby, it's almost too good not to go. But once you do it a couple times and you just get beat down, it's just off the radar for me anymore because it offers such a beating. Yeah, it's gonna suck. This is gonna suck. But all the smallmouth water, all the big trout water around here is blown out. Like my smallmouth river that I like to fish, tributary of the Susquehanna, is at like almost in flood stage. It is just ridiculous. Spring is killing me because I know the fish are eating, and I just can't wade, can't kayak. It's just awful, and I am like going stir crazy not being able to fish for smallmouth right now because they are on the feed and they're fat and sassy, and maybe we'll see some trout. I don't know. We'll see. This is definitely a finesse game, and it's definitely like it's stock and spot and stock. So you gotta see them and present from a long way away, and just be very, very, very careful. Which is not my style. I like to smack a streamer on the fish's head and call it good. Eats it or doesn't. But worst case scenario, we'll at least take a look at the Letort. I'll show you what I mean. It's an interesting body of water. Very interesting. And maybe we'll see some fish. I don't know. It's worth a look-see.
And here we are. It is a beautiful body of water. I actually think I saw a fish, which is amazing. I'm going to make a few casts maybe, so I'm going to stand here and look for a little while. I'll get a bigger lens, see if we can zoom in. Oh yeah, that's a fish. Sitting between these two sets of rocks in the very center. Where did he go? Oh, he went down that way. Let's see if I can get him. It's going to be very hard to see. Well, screw this. Let's try and put a cast on him. Well, in a case of stupid by yours truly, this fish I saw, not trout at all. Focus. Come on. You can do it. Some kind of sucker. He's sitting right there. They were not even the least bit scared of me. So, onwards and upwards. There's a shot. You can see the crest beds this stream is famous for. It's this vegetation up here. We're going to walk upstream. Alright, we're standing next to a spot next to the I-81 bridge, and they just ran a pipeline through here, so there's a nice clear cut out to the creek. Gives you a look at what we're dealing with. I've been standing up here for 20 minutes. I haven't seen anything that even looks like a fish. So what we got here is a swamp. main body of the creek out there. But all through here, this is just like seepage from a spring behind us, and it's just soaked, and you can't actually get out to the creek. Maybe in a pair of waders, but like, not really. One of the things that makes fishing here so hard. This is some of my favorite water on the Letort, just because you've got the impression of these meadows, but in reality, it's all marsh. You can't stand on this stuff, unfortunately. But it does, it gives it a nice look, for sure. I mean, you can see, you want to will fish into being in these holes in the aquatic vegetation. But I have yet to see a single thing. And things are starting to get a little skinnier here as we meander up. Out here, the creek just kind of winds through this open meadow, gets smaller, gets bigger. It is one of the worst parts to fish yet, or try to fish. Again, I have been just stopping every chance I get and really taking a look at spots in the creek where you can see, and I have not seen a single thing that looks like a fish yet. At least a trout, unfortunately. We're going to keep looking. We are up along the upper sections. Check out the vegetation. It's pretty intense some places. Right behind us, there is a quarry up over that hill, which is what all the noise is from. So it's interesting. The stream really does run right through Carlisle. Not that we're seeing any fish in it, of course, but we're going to keep looking for a little while still. Oh, we got us a little plaque about fly fishing pioneers. A couple of flies that were born here. The peacock curl beetle, Letort hopper, the Shanks white minnow fly, Shanks sculpin fly. I really do like that white minnow. Shanks white minnow as a trout streamer. Okay, well, that was the rod out of the way. That was a treat. It wasn't a treat. Didn't see any fish at all. It was garbage. Is the way it goes sometimes. I'm trying to navigate to our next location. We're gonna go take a look at, here we go. Take a look at some of the historical aspects of the Letort. If I can get this to, there we go. So, well, that was a complete bust. I didn't see a single trout. This camera doesn't want to focus on my face. What is going on here? There we go. Folks, let's go. Oh no. Didn't see a single trout. Saw some suckers, some fall fish. Mistook some suckers for trout at one point. Made a cast or two on them. Quickly realized that they weren't interested at all in me or flies. So that was nice. I mean, it's 3 o'clock. I walked from about noon until 3. And every chance I got, I would stop, stand still. This is in the way. And just look, just watch, just look at the water, look for fish. And I didn't see a single solitary thing. And that's not uncommon. Like I said, this is a stupid difficult fishery. Like, it's not even fun. It's not even fun. It really makes you want to come fish it, doesn't it? It is a challenge. Any fish caught out of the upper end of the Letort is worth its weight in gold, because it is just such difficult fishing. And it's got all this history. Oh, geez, come on. Keep this out of the shot. There's all this history wrapped up in it, and it is strange. I didn't really think about it until I was fishing today, or walking around pretending to fish. It really does
just flow right through Carlisle when the town began to get built up. You know, industry and civilization requires water, and the Letort is where some of that came from. We're much more cognizant about what we do with it today. There are even signs on all the grates, stormwater grates in Carlisle. Drains to Letort, do not dump. It's got a picture of a fish on it, which I love. I think that's awesome. Wish more places would do that. But it's really interesting to see how the creek just winds right through town, basically. The parts we were just fishing are definitely the some of the wildest parts left, unfortunately. And there's a park down here called Letort Park, which the creek also runs right through. Which, I mean, I don't know how good the fishing is there, because it's constantly packed with children throwing things in the creek. So there is that. Right now, we are headed to Vince Marinaro's meadow. He has a meadow named after him, called Vince's Meadow. And it is over on the other side of the creek from where we were just at. I keep wanting to say fishing, but we weren't doing a whole lot of fishing. Definitely weren't doing any catching. So we're gonna head over there just to take a look at it. There's a monument, actually. So we'll go look at that, and then we might actually go down to the mouth where the Letort dumps out into the Conagwinet. That's a cool little spot because there's so much cold water getting pumped into the Conagwinet. The Conagwinet is a warm water stream for the most part. And it's a great smallmouth stream, actually. Fish it fairly often. But right up here where... That is the ugliest dog I've ever seen. Right up here where Letort dumps into it, you get this huge infusion of cold water. So there are trout, muskie, stuff like that. So we'll head down there, just take a look. I don't know if we're going to fish. We'll see what happens.
All right, so this easement at Marinaro's Meadow is actually private property owned by the Cumberland Valley Trout Unlimited chapter, which is awesome, and perks of being a member. So they've got this sign out here and this parking lot. You can park between dawn and dusk. And here are the memorials. Vince and Charlie Fox. And TU's got a rain shelter down here and a grill, and creek access is right here. So they've really done a great job of making this accessible for people.
So, that concludes the educational portion of this video. It's really cool how TU has stepped up and taken over that spot. I think that... I'm not sure if Trout Unlimited actually owns the land, or they just have permission from the landowner to be there. That is something I should look into. But it's great that they've taken over as stewards of at least that section of the Letort. I know, and this rod is getting in the way. I know they do lots of stream rebuilding projects. They do all kinds of stuff in the Letort itself, and that's, nobody else is going to do it. Try as I might, I'm not going to get out there with a bunch of buddies and build new structure in the creek. I'd love to, but you need some manpower, you need some organization, and you need a little science behind that, so you make sure you're doing it right. And that's what something Trout Unlimited is good for. I'm not going to plug be a member, don't be a member. It's up to you. How much do you value their input and where? In my experience, I've seen them ignore things that really need attention and give attention to things that are stupid, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, and that's just in South Central Pennsylvania. So who knows? Trout Unlimited all over the country. Who knows what they're doing, if it's worth it, if it isn't. I'm not trying to say it's not, but in my opinion, they miss once in a while, but that's okay. I mean, everybody does. I'd say overwhelmingly they're doing the right thing. The Letort is a crazy place to try and fish. I'd recommend anybody that's in the area at least go look at it. If you're not going to take a rod, just go look and think, oh, what could be. There are fish in there. There are big brown trout in there. Finding them is the hardest part. I don't even know if finding them is the hardest part. Getting them to eat's pretty hard too. So you got a 1-2 punch there of finding them, getting them to eat, and then there's the stream itself just is a disaster. It's mucky, muddy, just garbage all over the place. Not garbage literally, but if there's a place where you can get to the bank and make an actual cast, then where you're standing is going to be 6 inches of mud. And if there's a place where there's dry ground, there are going to be bushes just everywhere, 360, so you can't make an actual cast. So practice your roll casts if you want to go to Letort. It's just, it's like the perfect storm of difficult conditions, and they're always difficult. It's not like you get some bad rain and the water's too stained to fish. It's always hard to fish there, no matter what. Just because of the makeup of the creek. Makes it very rewarding. You catch a fish at Letort, it is worth its weight in gold for sure. But it is not an easy place to fish. I really feel like I need to go fish a bass pond and just thump on some fish right now, make me feel better. But that is the Letort Spring Run, Carlisle, Pennsylvania. 50 places to fish before you die, or whatever that book is. It's a television series. It's a destination. From what I know, most people that come here to fish Letort end up saying, this is awful, and go fish the Yellow Breeches or Big Spring. And there's nothing wrong with that. You go fishing, you like to catch fish. It's one of those things where, because it's in my backyard more or less, I can devote a couple hours here and there, devote a day here and there, and it's not a big loss for me. I didn't travel to come to the Letort. But if you do, prepare to put in time. It is by no means automatic. Anything there. Getting frustrated, that's automatic. You will be frustrated, no matter what, I think. It is just, it's unique. It is definitely unique. Would I recommend trying it? Yeah. Have the correct expectations when you come. Know that it is incredibly difficult. The conditions are incredibly difficult to fish in. The fish are incredibly wary. Like one shadow on the water, you flick water onto the water with a false cast, and that's it, That fish is gone. So, not the most fun place to fish. But again, you don't fly fish because it's easy. So, if it was easy, we probably wouldn't do it. So it's definitely something to check out. It's rarely fun. It's rarely fun. I had a nice day today. The weather was beautiful. 63 degrees. I got my 8,000 steps in. It's nice. Would I say travel across the country to come do that? Probably not. But if you're in the area, it's worth a shot. Even just to see it, because it is so steeped in history. It's just a very cool little stream. And there's not a whole lot like it around here. It's just cool to see in general. I think maybe we're going to skip the lower portion of the creek for today and make that a separate video altogether, because I think it deserves that. It's a little backed up right now because we've had so much rain. Spring creeks usually do not get affected by big runoff like that, but the lower end of Letort, where it hits the Conagawennit, it can get pretty high and back up from the Conagawennit. So we'll save that for a time when the water recedes a little bit, and we'll go check it out. Thanks for watching this very verbose, very fishless video. I hope that it was educational. I hope you got at least some idea of what the Letort's all about. And if you want to fish it shoot me a message if you're looking for places to park, if you're looking for stuff like that. Let me know. I can give you some vague information. No, I can definitely help you find places to park. Catching fish, now ain't nobody gonna be able to help you catch you. Nobody's gonna be able to help you with that. So, thanks for watching, even though this was very long and painful.